Welcome back. This is part 5, the final episode of our 5-part series on the losing strategies that keep you stuck in the same conflicts with your partner. Over the last 4 episodes, we've covered fighting to be right, controlling your partner, unbridled self-expression, and retaliation. And today we're tackling withdrawal. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is the one I've struggled with the most. So if you're someone who shuts down, goes silent, or walks away when conflict gets hard, you're not alone. Let's talk about it. According to Terry Real, withdrawal is when you physically or emotionally leave the conversation. And it comes from resignation or it can come from retaliation. And here's what's important. Withdrawal is different than taking a responsible timeout. A responsible timeout or taking a pause during conflict would involve saying something like, I'm flooded, I need a 15-minute break to calm down, I'm coming back. That's you taking space to ground, to regulate yourself so you can come back and have a productive conversation that leads to repair. Withdrawal is when you shut down, you go silent, or you leave without any intention of coming back. You've either given up on the conversation, which is resignation, or you're punishing your partner by withholding your presence. That would be retaliation. So what does withdrawal look like? Physically, leaving the room, the house, the conversation, walking away without saying where you're going, avoiding your partner altogether. Emotionally, stonewalling, so going silent, refusing to engage, shutting down, saying things like, fine, whatever, you can do what you want, giving a one-word answer. Physically being present, but emotionally checked out. So avoiding eye contact, turning away, giving your partner the cold shoulder. The key difference is when you take that responsible time out, you're pausing so you can come back and engage. When you withdraw, you're leaving because you've either given up or you just don't have the capacity to continue the conversation. So what's going on in your nervous system when this happens? Well, you're in a state of freeze or flight. So you've had this conflict with your partner. Things start to escalate, you end up blowing your window of tolerance and you either go into flight, which is physically leaving, walking out, shutting the door, trying to get away, or it can look more like freeze, where again, you shut down, you go silent. And your body thinks, I can't handle this. I need to get out. I need to shut down. And like all the other losing strategies, these patterns of protection, these survival states, you've been doing this since you were a kid. I know when I was little, conflict was really scary in my home. And when my parents would get in a fight, I would physically go hide. I would leave the room. And that kind of mutated as I got older. And if I felt like I couldn't physically leave when I would get into a conflict with a partner, emotionally, I would shut down. I would be the person sitting there going, okay, sure. Yeah, whatever you want to do. And it's almost like I could feel this wall building up inside of me that was keeping them out and keeping intimacy out because I was trying to protect myself. So again, like all the other losing strategies, I want you to look at this through the lens of little me did this to give myself a sense of safety because safety wasn't available. And when we do that, we can have more compassion on our younger self. And I find it's easier to heal something from that lens of, wow, little me really needed something that I didn't get when I was younger. How can I give that to myself now so I don't have to fall back on this protective pattern? Let's talk about the costs of withdrawal. So the first thing is it makes repair impossible. When you withdraw, you're not just leaving the conversation, you're leaving the relationship. You can't repair what you won't talk about. You can't resolve conflict if you're checked out. The other thing it does is your partner feels abandoned. When you go silent or walk away, your partner doesn't know if you're coming back, which can lead to them feeling rejected, alone, or feel like you've given up on them. It can create a pursuer-withdrawal cycle. So the more you withdraw, the more your partner pursues. They ask questions. They try to get you to talk. They follow up. And the more they pursue, the more you withdraw. And it's this vicious cycle that can just continue where no one wins. It can build resentment over time. So when you withdraw and issues don't get resolved, you keep sweeping things under the rug, you don't address them, they pile up. I always tell my clients, you can sweep things under the rug for a while, but sooner or later, you're going to trip over that pile and it's probably going to break your relationship. So with withdrawal, resentment can really build. The distance grows and eventually you're going to start to feel like a roommate with your partner. And it slowly kills your relationship. It's one of the most destructive patterns in a relationship because you can't build intimacy with someone who won't stay in the room. You can't have connection with someone who shuts down every time things get hard. And it's one of the most difficult losing strategies to come back from because it requires the person who is withdrawn to re-engage, to be willing to re-engage. So if this sounds like you, I want to give you some tangible things that you can start doing to help yourself move through this losing strategy, re-engage, and seek repair with your partner. So the first step is awareness. Like all the other losing strategies, it's to be aware that we're doing it. Like what I'm doing is stonewalling. What I'm doing is, leaving the room and fleeing. My body is going into a state of freeze or flight. I am withdrawing. So notice that. Notice if that is something you do. If that's something you're like, I do, you need to start taking responsible distance when you notice that urge coming on to completely withdraw. So if you're flooded, if you're overwhelmed, take a break. And here's how you do it. You let your partner know, I'm really overwhelmed right now. I need 15 minutes to go calm down and ground. I'm coming back and then we will talk. This does put a lot of the onus kind of on you to be willing to come back. So this is why it's important to be aware of what withdrawal feels like in your system. I know for me, when I find myself getting to the point where I'm going to blow my window of tolerance and go into a state of withdrawal, I tend to start to get really emotional right before then. My chest feels really tight. I feel really uncomfortable. So before you get to that point, whatever that point is for you, saying to your partner, I need a little space. I need 15 minutes to go calm down. I will come back. And during this responsible timeout, that is your time to ground. That is your time to give your system some safety. So if you're someone who goes more into that flight where you find yourself wanting to, leave the room, leave the house, go for a walk. Go for a short walk before you come back. If you find yourself shutting down to where you feel frozen, just some small movements. You can take your opposite hand to arm, give yourself some gentle squeezes. Another thing that I do is, if I'm taking that responsible time out, the pause, is I will notice what I'm feeling in my body and I will say out loud to myself what I'm feeling. Like I'm feeling tight in my chest, I'm feeling like I want to run away. And then I'll notice what emotion's there. So if it's anger, if it's sadness, I'll name that out loud too. So I'm just giving my body a second to experience what I'm feeling. And then I ground. I notice my butt on the floor or my feet on the floor. I take a few deep breaths so that then I can re-engage without staying in it too long to where I blow my window of tolerance. So if you are someone who withdraws, it's very important to take a responsible time out before you blow your window of tolerance and you go into that survival state. Because the truth is, conflict's going to happen. Difficult conversations are going to happen. And you have to build your capacity to stay in the uncomfortable if you want to have a long-term relationship. If you run away and withdraw anytime the pressure builds, you're never going to be able to repair things, which means your relationship isn't going to strengthen through repair, because repair is what builds the relationship. It's not about having harmony all the time. We go through the disharmony and harmony cycle, right? And it's in the it's in the repair that the bond gets stronger. So we want to build our capacity to be able to sit in the uncomfortable without blowing our window of tolerance. So if you need space, say so. Don't just disappear. And I want you to ask yourself this question. If withdrawal is something you struggle with, when you do find yourself wanting to leave a conversation, are you leaving because you know you need to go ground and regulate, or are you leaving because you've given up? Is it a feeling of resignation inside of you and you just want to give up? Or maybe even some retaliation, you want to get back at them? Or is it, I actually just need to regulate so I can come back to this? This wraps up our series on the 5 losing strategies. We've covered fighting to be right, controlling your partner, unbridled self-expression, retaliation, and withdrawal. And the more you know what your go-to losing strategy is, the easier it will be to become aware when you're going into it. And then to use the tools I've given you over the last few weeks to ground yourself, to regulate yourself, so that you can either re-engage if you've withdrawn, or you can change the way that you are engaging so that you have a productive conversation with your partner. And then you can repair. Because the quicker couples are able to repair, the stronger the relationship is, and the more fun the relationship is, and the more fulfilling the relationship is. If you've listened to these episodes and you're like, I get it, I see where my blind spot is, I see where my losing strategy is, but I'm still not really sure, like, what do I do? How do I get myself to re-engage? How do I get myself to calm down? This is the work I do with clients, and I would love to support you in this. Send me an email, support@growthovereasy.com. or click the link in the show notes to book a discovery call with me, and let's chat about it. Let's chat about how these losing strategies are showing up for you and how much better and more fulfilling your relationship can be when you notice them and you're able to work through them instead of letting those patterns of protection control your life. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Relationship Growth. If you enjoyed this episode and you're a fan of the show, please subscribe and leave us a review. If you'd like to connect, you can join me over on Substack or follow me on Instagram at Lily Rachels. Let's build love that grows.